Have you ever felt a presence in a room long after everyone has left? Not a ghost, but an energy, a residue, the lingering tension after an argument, the cloying sweetness of a fake compliment, the psychic grime left behind by someone who smiles to your face while secretly wishing for your failure. We spend so much of our lives navigating the invisible world of emotions, intentions, and psychological warfare, armed with little more than a gut feeling we've been taught to ignore. We try to reason our way through toxicity, to build logical walls against manipulation, and we end up exhausted, drained, and feeling perpetually stuck, wondering why our best efforts feel like running in mud. But what if the key wasn't in thinking harder, but in listening deeper? What if there was a way to bypass the chattering, rational mind? The one that makes excuses for difficult people, the one that tells you you're just being paranoid, and speak directly to the ancient, wise part of you that already knows the truth. This brings us to a strange and fascinating intersection. On one side, you have a simple, almost primitive ritual practiced in whispers for centuries, the burning of a bay leaf, an act of folk magic, a wish sent up in smoke. On the other side, you have one of the most profound thinkers of the 20th century, Dr. Carl Jung, a man who mapped the deepest territories of the human soul. The shadow self, the collective unconscious, the persona, the slow, arduous journey to becoming whole. What happens when you place these two things side by side? What happens spiritually, or more accurately, psychologically, when you perform a simple, intentional act like burning a bay leaf? The answer has nothing to do with magic and everything to do with waking up. This isn't about casting a spell. This is about sounding a gong in the deepest chambers of your own psyche. It's a ritual that serves as a permission slip for your unconscious mind to finally come forward and tell you what it knows. And what it knows will change everything. Today, we are not just talking about self-improvement. We are talking about a psychological excavation. We will explore exactly what this symbolic act ignites within you, layer by layer, based on the timeless framework of Jungian psychology. This is about understanding the real mechanism behind why such a simple ritual can feel so profoundly transformative. It's about learning how to use a symbolic key to unlock the parts of yourself that hold all the power, all the clarity, and all the brutal, liberating truth you've been so desperately seeking. Get ready, because we're about to explore what happens spiritually when you burn bay leaves, Carl Jung. First, let's be brutally honest about the state most people are in when they even consider something like this. You're not here because everything is going great. You're here because you're tired. You're tired of trying to figure people out. Tired of the emotional vampires, the frenemies who bleed you dry with a smile, the subtle signs of hate disguised as concern. You're tired of feeling stuck in cycles of self-sabotage, where you know what you should do, but you just can't seem to do it. Your mind feels like a battlefield, and your energy is the primary casualty. This is the state of a person living almost entirely in what Carl Jung called the persona. The persona is the mask. It's the socially acceptable version of you that you present to the world. The good employee, the dutiful son, the agreeable friend, the accommodating partner. It's a necessary tool for social navigation, but for many of us, the mask has fused to our skin. We've forgotten who we are without it. We become so invested in being what others expect us to be that we lose connection with our authentic self. This is the root of feeling stuck. You're trying to solve a deep soul-level problem using the shallow tools of the persona. It's like trying to fix a faulty engine by polishing the hood of the car. So you take a dried bay leaf. You write a word on it, clarity, release, protection, or maybe you write the name of a situation or a person that's draining you. You light a corner of it and you watch it curl and burn, the smoke rising into the air. The very first thing that happens psychologically is this: you declare war on your own persona. The act of burning is an act of destruction. It is a primal archetypal symbol of purification and transformation. By setting that leaf aflame, you are performing a micro-ritual of annihilation. You are not just burning a leaf, you are symbolically burning the facade. You are sending a powerful, non-verbal message to your unconscious mind that says, I am done with this. The mask is no longer serving me. The pretense is over. Consider the story of a woman named Claire. For a decade, Claire had worked in a hyper-competitive marketing firm. She was the office peacemaker. She smoothed over conflicts, absorbed the passive-aggressive jabs from her boss, and smiled through meetings where her ideas were stolen and rebranded by a more charismatic, manipulative colleague. Her persona was capable, calm, and cooperative. But beneath it, she was a cauldron of resentment and exhaustion. Her body was screaming at her with migraines and insomnia. She was tired of trying, tired of a life that looked successful on the outside but felt hollow on the inside. One evening, after a particularly draining day, she stumbled across this idea of burning a bay leaf. Feeling a mix of desperation and cynicism, she wrote the word facade on a leaf and burned it in a small ceramic bowl on her balcony. She watched the smoke dissipate into the night sky and felt nothing. She scoffed at herself and went to bed. But the next morning, something had shifted. The ritual had been a key turning in a lock she didn't know existed. When her boss made his usual backhanded compliment about her report, "Good work, Claire," almost as sharp as something Mark would produce, the usual response died in her throat. The automatic, people-pleasing smile didn't come. Instead, a profound stillness settled over her. She looked at him, not with anger, but with a terrifying clarity. For the first time, she didn't see her boss. She saw a deeply insecure man propped up by the energy he siphoned from others. She simply replied, "Thank you, I'm proud of the work I did." There was no drama, no confrontation, but the energetic contract between them was shattered. The persona of the agreeable, absorbent Claire had been incinerated in that little bowl the night before. What was left was something more real, and her boss felt it. He was visibly uncomfortable. He mumbled something and walked away. From that day on, the dynamic changed. He couldn't play with her anymore because the character he was used to playing with had left the stage. This is the first crucial step. Burning the leaf is a symbolic act that cracks the mask. It's the first tremor in the earthquake that will bring down the carefully constructed but ultimately imprisoning walls of your persona. It's a declaration that you are ready to deal with the raw, unfiltered reality of your life, not the sanitized version you've been selling to yourself and everyone else. The consequence of not doing this is stagnation. You remain a puppet of social expectation, your energy endlessly drained by playing a role you've outgrown. The reward for doing it is the first, terrifying, exhilarating breath of authentic air. Once the persona begins to crack, something else is invited to step out from the darkness. This is where the real work, the terrifying and liberating work, begins. The second thing that happens when you perform this ritual is this: you send an invitation to your shadow self. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is everything you have repressed about yourself. It's the parts of you that you deem unacceptable, ugly, or weak. It's your anger, your envy, your laziness, your insecurities, your vulnerabilities. We all have a shadow, and we spend most of our lives running from it, pretending it doesn't exist. The problem is what we repress does not go away. It festers in the unconscious and projects itself onto the outside world. You think your boss is a manipulative tyrant. Your shadow might contain your own unexpressed ambition and desire for control. You think your friend is a lazy freeloader. Your shadow might hold your own deep-seated fear of failure and your repressed desire to just stop and rest. We attract people and situations into our lives that mirror our own disowned parts. The toxic people you can't seem to shake are often just messengers, delivering a telegram from your own shadow. The smoke from the burning bay leaf is a perfect metaphor for the shadow. It's dark, ethereal, and it reveals things by obscuring them. When you perform this ritual with the intention of gaining clarity, you're not asking for a divine spotlight from above. You are asking for the smoke from your own inner depths to rise and show you what you've hidden from yourself. Let's look at a man named Marcus. Marcus was a nice guy. He was always the one to lend money he couldn't afford to spare, to give rides at inconvenient times, to listen to his friends' problems for hours on end. And he was constantly surrounded by what he called emotional vampires, people who took and never gave back. He felt like a victim, righteous in his resentment. He saw himself as a good person being taken advantage of by a world of selfish users. This was his story, and he was stuck in it. Frustrated and drained, he tried the bay leaf ritual. He wrote victim on the leaf and set it alight. As he watched it burn, he wasn't filled with a sense of power, but with an unsettling wave of emotion. That night, he had a dream. In the dream, he was a beggar, but he wasn't begging for money. He was begging people to take things from him: his coat, his food, his water. He felt a desperate, clawing need for them to accept his offerings, because their acceptance was the only thing that made him feel worthy. He woke up in a cold sweat. The dream, a direct communication from his unconscious, delivered the brutal truth. The problem wasn't just them, it was him. His niceness wasn't a pure, selfless virtue. It was a manipulative strategy born from his shadow. Hidden in his unconscious was a deep-seated belief that he had no inherent value. His only way to feel worthy, to buy love and friendship, was to make other people indebted to him through his endless giving. He didn't just attract takers, his shadow needed them. They were essential actors in his psychological drama of self-worthlessness. This realization was devastating. It was a complete demolition of his identity as the good guy, but it was also the key to his freedom. He had been trying to solve the problem by changing other people, wishing they would be more grateful, more reciprocal. It was a fool's errand. The real work was to confront his own shadow, to face the part of him that felt worthless, and to begin the hard journey of cultivating self-worth from within, not from the validation of others. This is the true meaning of shadow work. It's not about getting rid of your darkness. It's about integrating it. It's about owning your anger, your envy, your insecurity. When you own it, it no longer controls you from the shadows. Your anger, once owned, becomes the fuel for setting powerful boundaries. Your envy, once owned, points you directly to what you truly desire. The symbolic act of burning the leaf is the start of this dialogue. It says to the unconscious, I am ready to see, show me my part in this mess. Ignoring the shadow means you will forever be a victim of your own projections, endlessly battling enemies on the outside that are really just reflections of the conflicts on the inside. You will continue to attract the same toxic person in a different body, over and over again, breaking yourself against the same cycle. But embracing the shadow, integrating its wisdom, is how you stop self-sabotaging and finally break the cycle for good. It's the path to becoming not just nice, but genuinely good, not just strong, but whole. With the persona cracked and the shadow making its presence known, the psychic noise begins to die down. The constant, low-level anxiety that comes from maintaining a facade and repressing your truth starts to dissipate. This creates a space of inner quiet, and in that quiet, a more subtle voice can finally be heard. This leads to the third and perhaps most intuitive thing that happens. You clarify the channel to your inner wisdom. Jung spoke of the anima, the unconscious feminine aspect in a man's psyche, and the animus, the unconscious masculine aspect in a woman's psyche. These are not about gender identity, they are archetypal energies. For our purposes, think of them as the bridge between your conscious ego and the vast, collective unconscious. They are the source of true intuition, creativity, and profound insight. Your gut feeling is a whisper from this part of you. The problem is, in our noisy, hyper-rational world, that whisper is drowned out. It's drowned out by the demands of the persona, by the roar of the unacknowledged shadow, by social media, by endless to-do lists, by the opinions of others. We are conditioned to trust external data over our internal compass. We analyze the pros and cons of a relationship, ignoring the sick feeling in our stomach. We take the job with the better salary, dismissing the profound lack of life we feel when we walk into the office. The ritual of burning a bay leaf acts as a psychic reset. It's a moment of focused, silent intention. It's a deliberate act of tuning out the external world and tuning into the internal one. The act itself, the focus on the flame, the rising smoke, the scent, is a form of active meditation. It quiets the chattering ego and allows the voice of the anima or animus to become clearer. Suddenly, the subtle signs of hate or love, of toxicity or support, are no longer confusing data points to be analyzed. They are felt truths. Imagine a man, David, who was in a relationship for 3 years. On the surface, it was perfect. His girlfriend, Sarah, was beautiful, successful, and everyone said they were the perfect couple. But David felt a constant, unnameable dread. Sarah would say, "I love you," but his body would tense up. She would compliment him, but it would feel like a subtle critique. He saw her phone light up with texts from a male friend late at night, and she had a plausible explanation for everything. His logical mind told him he was being insecure and paranoid. He was on the verge of proposing because it was the next logical step. Feeling deeply conflicted and stuck, a friend suggested he try this simple ritual to get some clarity. David, an engineer by trade, thought it was ridiculous. But his internal conflict was so great, he was willing to try anything. He wrote Sarah on a bay leaf and burned it, not with any specific expectation, but with a simple, desperate plea for truth. That week the filter came off. It wasn't a dramatic revelation, but a series of quiet, undeniable recognitions. He noticed the way Sarah's smile never quite reached her eyes when she looked at him. He felt the energetic flinch when he touched her unexpectedly. He heard the subtle condescension in her voice when she talked about his job. These weren't new signs, they had been there all along. But his rational mind, bullied by his persona's need for the perfect relationship, had explained them all away. The ritual had quieted that bully. It had allowed his intuition, his anima, to speak. And it spoke not in words but in feelings. The sick dread in his stomach wasn't paranoia. It was a perfectly functioning emotional guidance system telling him, warning, danger ahead, this is not love, this is not safe. Within a month, he ended the relationship. It was painful and messy, but it was also like lancing a wound that had been poisoning him for years. A few months later, he found out she had been cheating on him the entire time. His intuition had known the truth long before his conscious mind was allowed to accept it. This is the power you reclaim. You stop outsourcing your truth to others. You stop letting your logical mind argue you out of your own feelings. The body language signs, the subtle shifts in tone, the energetic signature of a person, these become as clear as a spoken language. You don't have to guess if someone secretly loves or hates you. You feel it, you know. This isn't about becoming psychic. It's about becoming psychologically attuned. It's about trusting the incredibly sophisticated instrument of perception that is your own integrated psyche. The burning of the leaf is the act of wiping the dust off the lens, allowing you to see the world and the people in it with a piercing, unwavering clarity that protects your energy and guides you toward what is genuinely life-affirming. Failing to do this means you remain lost in a fog of second-guessing, vulnerable to manipulation and the hidden agendas of others. But learning to hear this inner voice is how you begin to navigate your life with effortless precision, moving away from what harms you and toward what heals you, naturally and without hesitation. As you begin to operate from this place of newfound clarity, with a cracked persona, a dialogue with your shadow, and a clear channel to your intuition, you are no longer the person you were. You are no longer a passive recipient of whatever life or other people throw at you. You are becoming an active force. This leads to the fourth powerful transformation. You make a declaration of psychic sovereignty. Psychic sovereignty is the radical understanding that your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your energy is your own sacred territory, and you alone are its ruler. You have the right and the responsibility to decide who and what gets to enter this space. For most of our lives, we operate with open borders. We let the anxieties of the world become our anxieties. We allow the negativity of a coworker to pollute our entire day. We carry the emotional baggage of our family members as if it were our own. We are energetically porous, and we wonder why we are so tired. The act of burning a bay leaf, especially when performed with the intention of protection or cleansing, is a powerful, symbolic boundary-setting ritual. It's like drawing a line in the sand around your psyche. The fire represents the transformative power that consumes and purifies any energy that is not in alignment with your highest good. The smoke represents the clearing of old, stagnant psychic debris. It is a declaration to yourself and to the universe at large that your energetic field is no longer a public dumping ground. Think about it in terms of a physical home. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your house, put their muddy feet on your couch, and empty their trash in your living room. Yet we allow people to do this to our minds and hearts every single day. We let a critical comment from a frenemy live rent-free in our heads for weeks. We allow the passive aggression of a family member to dictate our emotional state. This declaration of sovereignty is what allows you to finally deal with difficult people effectively. Not by arguing with them, not by trying to change them, but by simply denying them access to your inner world. Let's imagine a young artist named Leo. Leo was incredibly talented, but he was crippled by the voice of his hypercritical father, which had become his own inner critic. Even though he lived hundreds of miles away, every time he sat down to paint, his father's voice would be there, telling him he wasn't good enough, that he was wasting his life, that he would end up a failure. He was in a constant, exhausting battle with this internalized phantom. His hidden enemy wasn't a person, it was a psychic parasite. One day, he performed the bay leaf ritual. On the leaf, he wrote, "My mind is my own." He watched it burn until it was nothing but gray ash. This simple act was a profound demarcation. It was him, as the sovereign ruler of his own mind, serving an eviction notice to the psychic squatter that had taken up residence there. The next time he went to paint, the voice was still there, but it was different. It was fainter, as if shouting from outside a closed door rather than from inside his own head. He was able to observe it without being consumed by it. He could say, "I hear you, but you are not me, and you have no power here." He began to paint with a freedom he hadn't felt since he was a child. He was reclaiming his creative territory. This is what it means to protect your energy. It's not an aggressive act. It is a firm, quiet, and non-negotiable closing of the gate. You no longer engage. You no longer JAD. justify, argue, defend, or explain. You simply recognize that an energy is toxic or invasive and you deny it entry. This is how you deal with fake friends and frenemies. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. You simply stop giving them your energy. You stop responding to the baited texts. You become busy when they want to meet to gossip or complain. Your energy field becomes so solid, so sovereign, that their toxicity can't find a hook. It slides right off. They will eventually get bored and go find an easier target. The consequence of not claiming your psychic sovereignty is a life of perpetual energetic depletion. You will be a ship without a captain, tossed about by the emotional storms of everyone around you. But when you claim it, you become an unshakable mountain. The winds of others' opinions may blow, the rains of their negativity may fall, but you remain centered, grounded, and whole. Your inner peace becomes non-negotiable, and your life force, once squandered on psychic defense, is now free to be invested in creating the life you actually want. When all these pieces click into place, the cracking of the persona, the dialogue with the shadow, the clarity of intuition, and the declaration of sovereignty, you are no longer just fixing problems. You are not just breaking cycles or dealing with difficult people. You are embarking on the most important journey of a human life. This is the final, ultimate outcome that the bay leaf ritual symbolically initiates. You take the first conscious step on the path of individuation. Individuation was Jung's term for the process of becoming a psychologically whole, complete, and indivisible individual. It is the journey of integrating the conscious and the unconscious, of reconciling all the opposing forces within you, your persona and your shadow, your logic and your intuition, your masculine and feminine energies. It is the process of becoming the person you were always meant to be, before the world told you who you should be. This is the ultimate goal of all deep personal development. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. It's not about eliminating weakness, it's about integrating it into a greater strength. The burning of the bay leaf in this grand context is like the ceremonial groundbreaking for a cathedral. It's a small, simple act, but it marks the beginning of a monumental undertaking. It is the moment you consciously choose to stop living a fragmented, unconscious life and start the deliberate, often difficult work of self-realization. Each of the previous steps is a crucial part of this individuation process. You cannot become whole if you are hiding behind a mask, the persona. You cannot become whole if you are at war with half of yourself, the shadow. You cannot find your unique path without an inner compass, intuition. You cannot build your own life if your psychic space is constantly being invaded, sovereignty. Individuation is the ultimate how to change your life because it doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes the you who experiences the circumstances. A person on the path of individuation is no longer stuck. They are a work in progress. They are no longer tired of trying. They are engaged in the meaningful, challenging work of becoming themselves. This is the real transformation. It's moving from a state of being a passive object, a product of your upbringing, your culture, and your traumas, to becoming an active subject, the conscious creator of your own meaning. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and you start asking, "What is this revealing about me? What is this calling forth from me?" The burning of a bay leaf doesn't accomplish this for you. Let's be brutally clear on that. It is not a magic pill, but it is a powerful catalyst. It is a ritual that focuses your intention and signals to the deepest parts of your being that a change is coming. It's a waking up call, It is the conscious decision to pick up the tools of self-awareness and begin the work. So, as we conclude, let's bring it back to that simple smoking leaf. We've journeyed from a folk ritual to the depths of the human psyche. We've seen how this one symbolic act can be a key that unlocks a powerful sequence of psychological events. First, you burn away the persona, the suffocating mask of social compliance, allowing your authentic self to breathe. Second, you invite the shadow out of the darkness, not to be destroyed, but to be understood, turning your greatest weaknesses into the source of your deepest wisdom. Third, you quiet the noise of the ego, clarifying the channel to your intuition so you can navigate your life with feeling and truth, recognizing love from hate and safety from danger. Fourth, you declare your psychic sovereignty, building an impenetrable fortress around your inner peace and reclaiming your energy from the vampires and manipulators of the world. And finally, by doing all this, you consciously step onto the path of individuation, the sacred journey of becoming whole. This is what happens not by magic but by psychology. Not by a spell, but by a symbol that your unconscious mind understands perfectly. The choice, as always, is yours. You can continue to live on the surface, wrestling with the same recurring problems, feeling drained by the same toxic people, stuck in the same cycles of self-sabotage, wondering why nothing ever changes. Or you can choose to go deeper. You can choose to see a simple act not as superstition, but as a tool for self-excavation. You can light a fire not just under a leaf, but under your own life. Make the declaration. Send the signal to your own soul that you are ready. Ready to stop hiding, ready to face your whole self, and ready to begin the real work of building an unbreakable, authentic, and truly powerful life from the inside out. The journey is long. The path is challenging. But it begins now with one small flame and one massive decision to finally, truly wake up.